Hi there, this presentation is called Best Practices for Facilitating Effective Distance Learning. In this presentation, I'm going to share a few tips and tricks with you that you can use to facilitate either a fully online course or a hybrid course in which you have face-to-face instruction combined with online instruction. Let's get started. All right, the first tip to share with you today is to be present. This is really one of the most important things you can do in your course. Many studies show that the highest indicator of student satisfaction and learning outcomes is the perception of instructor presence in an online course. So one thing that's really important to do is show your face. This could be as simple as updating your profile to include a picture of yourself, or recording screencast videos like I'm showing you now that will let students know that you're present in the course. Another thing that's really important to think about is to be an active participant. So this means doing things like participating in online discussions or providing feedback for students, basically letting students know that you are there and you're available, you're active and engaged. A third tip to consider here is that you should facilitate, not dominate. So just as effective instructors are facilitators or maybe guides on the side, the same consideration is important in online learning as well. For example, if you're having a discussion, it's really important not to respond to every single student post, but to allow the space for other students to respond to their peers. You might participate in that discussion by asking a directing question or clarifying a misunderstanding, but you want to make sure that you don't dominate the discussion or dominate the online space. You want to create room for other students to interact with their peers. All right, another important tip for facilitating an online space is to be consistent. Routines are really valuable in an online course, just as they are in a face-to-face environment. It's really important that you establish a routine that students can expect. This might be something as simple as posting materials on the same day and in the same space. So for example, maybe every Monday at 10 a.m. you set up an announcement that will automatically go out that will share the agenda for the week or the basic content that students will cover in that module. But posting that material in a predictable manner and in the same place really helps students have the routine and predictability that they need to be successful in an online environment. Another key thing about being consistent is providing timely feedback. So just as with a face-to-face class, it's important that you provide feedback in a timely manner so that students have the opportunity to make improvements, before they're asked to do the same task again. This is particularly important in an online environment because it allows students to know that you're present and involved, and it can also help you build rapport with students, by providing feedback. All right, our next tip is to be repetitive. So just as you're repetitive in a face-to-face environment, it's really important to be repetitive in an online environment as well. You don't want to assume that just because you posted an announcement or directions for an assignment in one place, that students will automatically know that information. It's really helpful if you provide information in multiple formats. So using text, pictures, and video, including Screencast, and posting the information in the same place consistently is really important. However, even though you should be consistent with where you post information and when you post it, it's also helpful if you repeat information throughout the course. So for example, maybe you have an announcement where you are providing due dates for some assignments that are upcoming. You also want to post those due dates, connect it to your assignment. Maybe you send out an email to students to let them know. Basically, the more ways that you can provide the information to students, the better. Especially because you can't control how students will navigate an online space. The more places you provide it, you can sort of have a better knowledge and security that that information has been conveyed to students. The final thing to think about here is to provide links as much as possible. You want to kind of direct students' navigation through an online course as much as you can. This will help save them time and ensure that they are focusing their instructional time on what's really important, that they're not wasting time trying to find something. So this means that if you're asking students to read some certain information, provide a link to it. Don't, just say, read this article, actually link directly to it. Same thing if you're providing an assignment. You want to link to where they can find the directions, maybe some examples, that sort of thing. Basically, you just want to think what you appreciate about an online environment, tips and tricks that help you. You want to replicate those for your students. All right, our next trick and tip with an online facilitation is to be relevant. Again, just as it's important to be relevant in face-to-face instruction, it's really important to do the same thing in online instruction. My tip here to be relevant has a slightly different meaning in this context, because what I'm really trying to convey here is that you should connect your online learning to your face-to-face instruction. It's really tempting when you're getting started with this model to assign students maybe to do an independent curriculum that they go through on their own pace, but this can be really difficult for students and really demotivating for them. I would say you don't want to have those independent projects really until later in the course. You want to establish a firm connection between online learning and your face-to-face learning at the beginning of the course. So this might mean assigning students to do a reading in your online environment and then talking about it in your face-to-face class, or maybe giving a little quiz or something like that. Basically, you want to make sure that students know that the online learning is just as important as what happens in face-to-face learning. So you want to avoid doing something like having students, go through reading horizons on their own as your online instruction. If you do that, you'll have a few motivated students who really do it and stick with it and, maybe exceed your expectations, but a lot of students will just let that fall by the wayside. So it's really important to connect what happens in the online environment to what happens in face-to-face instruction. Another key tip here is to use the digital space during your face-to-face classes. So at the beginning of your course, it's really important to train students on how to use the digital space. You don't want to expect that they know how to use it. You want to get them used to where they can find information, how they can post questions, how to navigate, how to log in, how to remember their password, all those really important things, and kind of get the routine of making sure that the digital space and your face-to-face space are blended together. So for example, you might post a daily agenda in your Google Classroom. You might also include copies of all worksheets or readings or assignments in your digital classroom. This is also really great if students miss a class. They can know that they can find what they need in your digital space. So the more you can connect the two spaces and think of them as really one and the same and highly integrated, the better it will be for students. All right, the final tip to share with you today is to get comfortable on camera. So using video and Screencast are probably your most effective tool as an online instructor. Many studies show that students retain knowledge more if it's provided through video for longer. So that's great for knowledge transfer and retention. Also, in our digital age, we like seeing videos, so it's helpful. Screencasts are also really great because they allow you to model and show what's on your computer screen, as well as be present in the lower corner. So, for example, this is a screencast that I'm doing now. You can see me in the corner narrating this information. That helps with your instructor presence in your online course. And also, having a screencast really allows you to show students how to do something. I really like using Screencast for giving assignment directions. So I'll show students specifically, here I am clicking on the assignment, here's where I go, modeling, and that sort of thing. The other thing you want to really think about doing is letting go of the idea of perfect. It's okay to make mistakes in your screencast. You don't need to re-record the whole thing if you say like or You've probably seen me model that here today. Just try it out and get comfortable doing it. Don't stress over it, just do your best. Even mistakes will be beneficial to your students. So I hope these tips have been helpful for you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today and share these with you. And